Hi, Kathleen. How are you?
Hi, Cathy. Welcome, Cathy, to the first of our Secret Agent Society Facilitator Support webinar series. Those of you who are listening in, I'm Kathleen Davey. I'm the Chief Operating Officer and Clinical Psychologist here at the Social Skills Training Institute, where we distribute the Secret Agent Society program. And today is our first recording of a webinar where I'm joined by Cathy Love, who's an occupational therapist with experience in child and family work and is now an allied health business coach. And the first topic that Cathy is going to lead us through for today's webinar is called Behind the SAS Scenes for Stealth Productivity Tips. So we're going to look at how you can increase efficiency behind the scenes with SAS to improve your delivery. Cathy, would you like to start to take us through?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks, Kathleen. Thank you to the SAS crew for inviting me to deliver this information and share what I know. And fair to say, Kathleen and I, we've had a pretty good time putting this stuff together, and it's been it's been a really good, productive, creative process. So I guess what we'll be doing in the front part of this conversation is looking at some general productivity tips that might be really useful for your business or organisation regardless. But we very, very soon get into looking at the productivity hacks and habits, if you like, that sit behind delivering the SAS program specifically. And that's why Kathleen's here, because Kathleen knows that inside out, and I've done part of the training. And what you'll hear in the next hour or so, we actually secretly don't quite know how long this is going to go for. What you'll hear is us toing and froing and adding bits in, and that's the experience we want for you. And yeah, we hope that it's really, really helpful and kind of gets you over the line with delivering this amazing program in an easier, more joyful, more effective way.
Thanks, Cathy.
All good. So welcome. I'm based here in Melbourne, Australia, and in true Australian tradition, we are sitting at a 44-degree day. And I know that you'll be listening and watching this conversation all over the world. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And in planning this, we've really picked the cherries out and provided really core agnostic productivity tips that should be pretty applicable globally. And there may be the occasional reference to the NDIS, which is a very Australian funding system. And those of you here in Australia will be thinking, we know about that one, but the vast majority is globally applicable. And I guess by way of kind of framing this whole conversation, this is the first one that we're doing. And I'm pretty confident that Kathleen and the crew will be really keen on feedback, or as I like to call it, feed forward, about what you found that was interesting, perhaps what we could do differently next time, even what we can leave out, because the mission as such is to really provide you with as much help and suggestion as possible for you to get these programs implemented to your beautiful clients back in your organizations and businesses. So don't be shy with the feedback. It's all good stuff. Compliments are preferred, but you know, we'll take the other stuff as well.
Anything that comes is great.
Yeah, anything is good. And I guess, you know, this slide, I hope, comes as no surprise at all. This is my best thinking on the topic. This is Kathleen's best thinking on the topic. However, there is a formal disclaimer that is really important for everybody to understand. And I'm going to read this bit, so please forgive the tone and delivery on this bit. Any material, content or resources shared and discussed in this SAS support webinar is general in nature and is used to guide service planning discussions and support only. The Social Skills Training Institute encourages all participants to think critically and to appraise the content for their organisation and personal circumstances. The Social Skills Institute does not necessarily endorse content shared and accepts no liability for any consequence resulting from adhering to the content shared in this webinar. All right. I'd love to see your faces when you see this slide.
I love your pictures, Cathy.
Yeah, the slides are, the visuals are good. Even if you just turn us off and look at the pictures, it'll be fun. I'm wondering if anyone watching has had this experience of the feeling associated with this tsunami, feelings of kind of having to run a group. Groups are amazing. I'm an OT. Groups just kind of sing to my OT DNA. But boy, fair to say, they are nearly always a whole lot of work. And it's very much a, oh my goodness, we need to do groups. Oh my gosh, we really should be doing groups. But the logistics and the timing and the organising and your front of house admin and reception team, they sometimes go a little pale at the thought of, we're running groups in the term break. And so I guess that's, one of our core focuses is to kind of help you think about the whole process and project of running groups so that it feels so much more achievable for you and that there's so much flow for you as well. So a lot of the content is based on the problems and the challenges, as I hear in my coaching conversations associated with business owners and clinicians facing up to designing and delivering group programs. So what I want to challenge is this thinking that you might have of, oh my goodness, we're going to do groups and it's a whole lot of work. Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I don't know. Does that ever come up in the training, Kathleen, that there's the, how will we even implement it?
Yeah, in some ways. I mean, the training course, which Cathy's been a part of, the training course is very much focused on how to deliver the clinical part of the program. But depending on the services that people come from, which could be a teacher in a learning support unit at a school, it could be a lead business owner of a private practice who is thinking business, it could be a new graduate allied health worker who doesn't know that. So it depends on who they are, but we do see that, groups, we don't normally run groups, we normally run one-on-one sessions. I'm not sure, this is all a bit overwhelming. Definitely see it in training sometimes.
Yeah. The other kind of hidden agenda, and now you'll be able to pick it instantly, is this notion of continuous improvement. And there may well be people listening that are all over this good stuff, but it's that questioning that you might do, how do we make this better? How do we make this easier? How do we deepen the impact and the efficiency of what we're doing? And that continuous improvement kind of sits with that growth mindset, and it also sits with quality management as well. And certainly those listening on Australian soil will be aware that there's some, significant audit processes coming up as well. And this is another kind of layer that you can build into your policies and procedures about how you're always challenging yourself about how to do things even more effectively and even better for you, your team, and your clients as well.
Great.
All right. How's this for a slide? It's a bit of a ripper, isn't it? It's one of my favourites. We're all busy, hey? We're all busy. And it seems to be the norm nowadays that when someone asks you, how are you? You often sort of say, possibly always say, oh, I'm really, really busy. And everyone is busy, but as a business owner and as a clinician, I think it's kind of cool to be productive rather than busy. And what's really interesting is this concept of busy versus productive is spiking in online commentary, blogs, podcasts, documents, all over the world, particularly in the entrepreneurial space. And I know quite a few of you tuning into this are sitting in that allied health education entrepreneurial space. Welcome to the crazy. And so the thing is, we tend to wear busy sometimes as a badge of honor. And it's not always a good badge to wear, because it doesn't always mean that you're getting the really, really important stuff done. And you might be selecting tasks that are preferred or easier or got a bit more instant gratification or a bit more buzz to them, rather than the core clinical governance, business development activities that perhaps we kind of all know that we should be doing. So I'm going to pose you a question around this one. And for those with pen and paper, I'd love you to draw a horizontal line. And at the left-hand end, I'd love you to write busy. And on the right-hand end, this is the OT with, left-right confusion. So on the left-hand end, I want you to write busy. On the right-hand end, I want you to write productive. And rate yourself. Put a star where your day-to-day has been. Maybe pop another star on there for what yesterday was like. And maybe even another star for what the day before was like. And this isn't a judgment call. This is, if anything, an unlimited love kind of productivity check-in. But it's really interesting to ask yourself the question, am I busy doing the right stuff? Or am I up that right-hand end of the scale and actually getting the right things done? So for those of you that are curious about this, you will have a ball online. There is so much social, political, economical, entrepreneurial commentary about this particular topic at the moment. And when you start to understand it yourself and kind of get some concepts spinning in your own mind, it could be a really cool question that you take to your colleagues and your teammates as well, and about this self-reflection and this self-rating and this awesome dose of raw honesty about whether you're a bit more of a busy person or whether you're a bit more of a productivity person, and what for you personally and for your teams moves the needle towards productivity. I can't begin to imagine what those answers are, but to leave you with that thinking that busy isn't always good, productivity is perhaps the way to go. And heads up, sitting under the productivity end of things is very much mindset, very much habits. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of that stuff coming up as well.
And Cathy, you may be going to talk about this later on when I know we're getting into the detail on the SAS application. But just sitting here doing that line myself.
Oh, did you? Oh.
I did it with my overall job in mind. Sorry. It was interesting reflection, thinking if you just thought about your SAS groups as well, did that line, looked at busy versus productive in terms of what you spend your time on behind the scenes, with SAS groups specifically, be a really interesting reflection as well.
Yeah, let's try and remember between the two of us to come back to that when we're talking about the 3 phases associated with the program. Yep. All right, so this is another big one as well. We spend a lot of time thinking about time management, and there's some really interesting commentary emerging about energy management. And I put this slide in here to really kind of respectfully remind you and respectfully support you that your programs will probably be only as awesome as you are on the day. And yeah, you know where I'm going with this one, don't you? I'm just going to make a little bit of noise about sleep, nutrition, hydration, exercise. And if any of those pillars are kind of a little loose, it could be that some of this needs to be woven into your thinking, your planning, your day, your week, your month, whatever. I'm not sure why Kathleen was laughing nervously. I'm not sure whether I should ask her or not. But we all know those days when we've walked away from our clinical service to think, oh my gosh, the kids were so ratty. All of the kids were so ratty today. And I know that on reflection, it actually wasn't to do with the kids. There's no way that all those kids could have been having a bad day. It was really perhaps the energy that I was or wasn't giving off in the moment as well. So this has got some relevance for facilitators in managing their personal energy during the program delivery and during the groups, and the energy that they also kind of release when they're working with parents and carers and educators as well. And Kathleen, you can remind us about the O2 regulators at this point.
Yeah, it's a good link. So, and it takes me back to the training course as well, where we get facilitators to reflect before they've gone and run the groups. What are the thoughts that I might have during group that might lead me to feeling stressed or anxious, during either parent or child sessions? So now at this stage, when we're looking at the webinar, it's now, okay, I've been running it. What has been happening, and maybe how could I manage that a little bit better if needed? And I know it's lovely that you brought up the parent groups there, Cathy, because that we often just think about the kids, the time with the kids. A lot of people who run SAS are not as experienced in working with groups of adults. And so we do need to make sure we're at the best we can be for that process. There's a lot of emotions and a lot of education and a lot of group process.
So I reckon the take home on this slide is about your A game. What is your A game? What is your best version of yourself? And what is needed by way of maintenance and perhaps a bit of development in the background to bring the best version of you to your work and the best version of you to the groups and the kids and the parents and the educators. And this is a lifetime work in progress, I think, for all of us. Not expecting miracles overnight here. I wouldn't mind a miracle overnight sometimes, but haven't had one yet. Rightio, so let's kick into some of the productivity. We've started really, really wide, hey? You probably weren't expecting that. We're kind of zooming it in a little bit now. Holding a lot of information in your head and recalling memory files day in, day out, moment after moment is nearly always exhausting, okay? And if you imagine your brain like this, I don't know, what is it, 10, 12 lane freeway, goodness knows where this is. I'm glad I don't have to commute on this. It just instantly builds a sense of fatigue and stress and knowledge that you're really kind of overloading your cognitive hard drive up here, and you're also carrying it around. So it's somewhat vulnerable to perhaps some of the things on that previous slide and forgetting and all of that human stuff. So for me, in my personal and professional business experience to date, making workflow visible has been my #1 productivity hack, productivity tip, if you like. And there's a couple of the next one coming up is also, but things like jotting things on the back of envelopes and sticky notes and kind of getting stuff out of your head quickly and randomly isn't really quite what I mean. I'm actually really going to kind of get some heat under this idea that all of your to-dos, all of your ideas, all of your thinking, all of the stuff that you carry around, even all those policies and procedures and all of that good stuff, that gets out and that lives somewhere, and that it lives in one place. Okay, so you can go pencil and paper, you can go journals, diaries, notebooks, you can go mind maps, you can go posters, whatever, as long as it's out of up here. And you can go pixel as well. You can use some of my favorite applications are Trello, Trello, Asana, Asana, Monday is another workflow management tool, Flow, Office 365, all sorts of different products. I'm not going to even try and predict the best one that will suit your circumstances. That's your job to tappity tap way and do some critical thinking around some of those sorts of supports. But running group programs is a really, really big deal. And I know everyone who's done the SAS training, they want to do a rock star job. They want to give it 120%. They want the kids to have the best experience and the most long-term sustained positive impact possible. And that really means you've got to shift a lot of stuff out of here and get it visual on whiteboards, on posters, on whatever it takes. And rather than the temptation of chopping and changing around about the modality that you use, to actually stick with it, potentially past that point of comfort, to really test the limits of whether you're finding your way into a workflow management system that supports you.
And
What are your thoughts on that?
as a team, Cathy, was what I was thinking too. You know, that what you're saying is so valuable for each of us as individuals in how we go about our work and getting everything out of our heads. Often our SAS providers are working in either pairs as co-facilitators, or some of the larger services have multiple people who work together. And I know I've got one organisation in my mind as we're talking who they get everyone offline and get a whole room full of people together to do SAS planning. And I can imagine the workflow. I don't know if they've done it with workflow, but sometimes this would need to be applied as a team approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And what that does, my business brain is just sparking at that example, because that brings everyone along at the same pace. It would be a real dial-up for ensuring engagement and participation and persistence through to the end of the program, but it also harnesses the collective wisdom in the room. Exactly. And that loops back to that notion of continuous improvement, quality management, risk mitigation, whatever as well. So usually the more brains, the better, but there still needs to be that leader, hey, who puts a line under some things. So yeah, think about visible workflow. For those that are kind of really pricking their ears up on this, I'm just going to drop in the notion of Kanban, Kanban. That is probably the king of workflow concepts, and that might be some good reading for some of you out there as well. Alrighty, big hack number 2 is about habits. So I could talk about this all day, and it's probably best I don't. So I'm going to pull the.
We've only got an hour.
I know. Well, it's looking like 2.5 at the rate we're going, and I guess it's about thinking about what it is that is somewhat kind of out of control in your professional days. It might be your phone calls, it might be document writing, it could be emails, it could be stuff that you do in a really random, haphazard way. They tend to be the stressors, if you like. They tend to be the triggers of, oh my goodness, I'm feeling stressed. Oh my goodness, I'm so busy. We know about busy. We've talked about busy. And what I've experienced, and I was so resistant to this in the early days, and now, oh my gosh, I'm just so devoted to it, is the notion of a default diary. So this is my number 2, game-changing productivity. Number 1, visible workflow. Number 2, default diary. And I guess the easiest way to describe it is that it is batching tasks. It's doing the same task at the same time on certain sort of days. So I'm just going to give you some examples. I usually don't really take any notice of email until quite late in the morning. I'll often try and do email from 11 till 12 or 11:30 to 12 if I think I can get away with it. But when I'm doing email, that's all I'm doing. I'm not checking my phone or social or trying to squish in 10 minutes on a report writing. I just lock down and do email. I am a business owner. I do all of my finance related activities on a Monday morning from usually 8, sometimes 7 till a certain time. And my finance team all know I'm available and we'll often Zoom in together and we'll do the lion's share. There might be a couple of little bits that have to sneak in across the week. I do all my content development usually on a Wednesday. I do a lot of my phone calls and connecting and communicating and chatting and meetings on a Thursday. And I know this sounds somewhat idealistic and it might be kind of a little kind of odd to think about it, but what it's done for me mentally is I don't have to panic about when I'm going to do all my calls. I know that there's X amount of time on a certain point in the week. I don't have to panic about when I'm going to jump online and pay my bills. That all happens, like I said, on the Monday morning. I don't have to panic about all my social media stuff because there's a little spot in my diary that says social media content, and that's when I do it. And I sure strayed from the default diary on and off over the years, but now I'm really, really committed to it. And it's been a mental win that there isn't the relief of when I'm going to do things. And I've somewhat trained myself to kind of stick to what's in my diary. So I found it really, really helpful. And now I pretty much don't need that stuff blocked away in my diary. I just have habituated, if you like, to those routines. And when they get disturbed, oh boy, I'm more stressed now when I don't have that routine available than I was when I had nothing in place. So you might want to pull a couple of examples for that and think about what might be applicable to you. Wrangling emails, certain time of the day, wrangling phone calls, certain time of the day, blocking and batching blocks of activity, same activity across your week. Probably start with just one or two particular blocks of activity and see what difference it makes, and then dial it up from there.
And also, sorry, Cathy, just to add to that, sometimes the team nature of running SAS in an organisation, it might be some of that is your own personal, this is when I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Some of it might be the regular blocked out time of as co-facilitators, this is when we're going to do this bit of the SAS program.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. We get into some of that good stuff a little later on. So by way of establishing habits, you might want to use some habit tracking apps. There's a fair few to choose from over in the App Store. You might also be quite enthralled by bullet point journaling. Some of you may have written about that. There's some really interesting blogs about how bullet point journaling is applicable to business and the more professional side of things as well. So enjoy.
Sounds like there'll be lots of Googling afterwards.
They're probably Googling now. We could just go out for coffee and...
we could get Google to sponsor the webinar.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. It's good when you can kind of do some of that research stuff while you've got this in the background. I think big fan of incidental learning and follow things up as they come in, as they come across your horizon. It's all good. Alrighty, so when I was briefed about the scope of this webinar, and after the training day that I participated in, I came away with this idea that it could be really, really helpful to kind of really lift up and out and really take a bird's eye view of the SAS program. And if we think back to that woman holding onto the rail with the tsunami or the wave behind her, if we kind of fly up really, really high, it gives us a bit of a different perspective, a much higher perspective, literally, and it takes a bit of the emotion out of it, and it takes even some of the mechanics and the logistics out of it. And what I'd love you to imagine as you're a bird flapping away over the SAS kind of project, if you like, is to imagine that delivering the SAS program is more than 9 weeks, and that there is actually potentially, you'll pick this number as perfect for your organisation, but there's potentially a 6-week pre-program phase. Then there's the 9 weeks delivery phase. And then I've popped on a 2-week post-program phase, and that sits within the 6 months. It's called booster phase, isn't it? The 6 months at the end.
Yeah.
Yep.
So 9 weeks and then 6 months.
Yeah. So I'm going to leave the 6 months bit aside because that's too many weeks for me to add up really, really quickly.
Yeah, sure.
But we're kind of potentially looking at a 17-week, based on the weeks that I've picked, you'll pick your own, a 17-week phase or a 17-week view of what needs to be done. And so all of a sudden, all the work that you thought you had to do like the week before or 2 weeks before can be elongated and stretched out and pulled down into much smaller bits and bobs and ideas and tasks and chats and emails and team and task and all the rest of it. And what you're probably thinking that, oh my gosh, 6 weeks, that's a long time. We probably maybe typically wouldn't do anything until maybe 4 or 5 weeks before. But what you're going to discover in a couple of slides' time is that if you get super focused and super sorted in that 6-week phase, so much of the work is lifted from the 9-week delivery phase. And then perhaps the 2 weeks bit afterwards is a little new and a little sharpened up from what you might have done typically. I would literally encourage that you slam this around with some post-it notes. You might have 17 post-it notes. That sounds very extravagant, but full permission. And to actually put them out in a row. I quite like things in a row. Dear, oh dear, that's of concern, isn't it? Embracing diversity here.
Yeah.
And to actually think about all the bits, we're going to go into them, but all the bits that you think you would be doing, should be, could be, would be doing in that pre-phase, all the bits and bobs that you think that you should and would and could be doing in the delivery phase, and then the bits and bobs that you think you could, you would, you should be doing in the post phase as well. And once again, this is making workflow visible. I would be pretty sure that many facilitators and many kind of organizational managers and that would be holding a lot of that 17-week program in their head. And that's fatiguing. But if it gets out, it becomes shared, it becomes improvable, and it becomes very, very digestible.
Yeah. I love the shared comment. There is often one person that's holding the program and the organization in their head. Yeah, the shared approach. Great idea.
Don't rush on this. This could well take an hour. But what you're going to be hearing in the next few slides, should we ever get to them, is that if you follow some of the suggestions, if you pick out the special suggestions for you, you're going to be building a whole superstructure that you can, to a large extent, rinse and repeat for each SAS group program that you deliver. So there could be a little bit more work than perhaps what you anticipate in the next SA group that you plan and deliver. But it's going to be a really good investment for making it so much more efficient and enjoyable down the track. Yeah. Were you going to say something, Kathleen?
No, I just think it's a great, let's invest some more time. Let's do some more planning now so that our future groups run more efficiently. It's perfect.
Build the machine. All right, so this slide, oh, look, I've got a captive audience. Hope they're all still listening. Captive audience. I really, really wish that I did a project management course at some point when I had my private practice. And even if I saw one now that was 6 weeks, project management 101, I would jump at it. I know many people listening to this conversation have got an allied health and education, community kind of health background, and they're probably very, very natural program managers themselves. But to have the opportunity to formalize your understanding of project management, the concepts, the language, the flow, the amazing use of post-it notes, if nothing else, I think would be an amazing asset to business allied health service delivery anyway, but particularly in this context of SAS and how you can really build a machine that you can turn on whenever you need it. Have you ever done any training like that, Kathleen?
Yeah, bits and pieces. I haven't done a full formal course, but bits and pieces, and certainly worked closely with others who have had.
Yep. Great skill set, and such a magnificent adjunct up against allied health and education. Absolutely amazing. Right, so in my briefing and conversations with Kathleen and attending the training, as I've indicated, I've identified 3 phases with the SAS program, and I've kind of alluded to them back on that Birdseye slide. And it's the pre-program phase, the delivery, the during program phase, and then the post-program phase. And when I think about the coaching conversations I have with allied health business owners, that planning phase is often a little rushed, and it's often a little light. And there's still a little bit of, dare I say, scrabbling on the day for the resources and for the people and for the room and for the whatever else that you need to deliver the program then and there. And if we think about energy management, I've been there. I know what it feels like to be at the photocopier 10 minutes before the kids arrive, and that is a busy reality. It shouldn't be a productive reality though.
Yeah.
So what we've got coming up are some suggestions for how to kind of really kind of work out that pre-program phase so that you've got the lion's share of all of that good stuff done. And what I'm going to really, I'm just going to have a little business coach moment here, is for you to document this stuff. When I work with my coaching clients, I talk about business recipes, and it's the same whether it's in a school or community health centre or wherever it is. It doesn't matter who's delivering it, but it's all very well inventing fabulous new sharp efficient systems. But if all of that intelligence is sitting in people's heads, it makes it really hard for a succession plan for other facilitators to come in and deliver the program. It makes it really hard for people to read your mind. And it means that the quality and consistency is probably most likely to be somewhat diluted with each iteration of the planning phase that's coming out. And I know many businesses here in Australia, organisations are in full documentation mode, are in full policy and procedure mode. So please don't forget to document some of these strategies that we hope you will be implementing into the planning and delivery and post-program phases. Whilst back of the envelope isn't ideal, I'm going to say it's better than nothing, particularly if it can be worked up into something a little bit more checklisty or a little bit more procedural or a little bit more scripted, so on and so forth.
And often there's a member of people's teams who that aligns more with their strengths than other people who may be able to take all the back of the envelopes and make that checklist. Yeah.
Yep. All right, so let's have a bit of a convo about the pre-program suggestions. Now, my job was to kind of develop all these suggestions, and because I'm an OT, I kind of like things categorized. I like using all sorts of language to kind of make it easy for me to remember how to do things quickly and easily. So what I want to do is start by acknowledging and giving you a moment to actually check in with what you're already doing pre-program. And then I'm going to share you my three, the three parts to my structure as well, but they're only going to be adding on to what you're already doing that is working really nicely. So take a little moment now and document what you currently do. Dot points. You might have 3 dot points, you might have 13, all good. Check in with what you're already doing in your organisation in the pre-program phase. I'm glad I don't have to sing during this bit. Put everyone off their game. Now, here comes a foxy question. When you look at your dot points, when you look at what you're already doing pre-SAS program delivery, what percentage of those steps, those activities are documented? You might have 5%, you might have 50%, you might have 71%, whatever, it's all good. But this is where some gentle challenging is going to be sent your way, that the next time you're in the pre-program phase that you can double up on those numbers and get more and more of it documented. So what I've done in my thinking is I've divided my suggestions into 3 chunks. 3 chunks, she says, holding up 6 fingers. 3 chunks. Time, team, and task. And yes, there is going to be overlap across those 3 chunks, without a doubt. I'm not even going to apologize, but it was the best way that I knew how to be able to categorize some of the suggestions to help you remember them and to help you kind of think about how you could be using them and your own good stuff as well. So let's have a look at the time, team, and task suggestions that you could add on to what you're already doing in the pre-SAS program delivery phase. So get comfy. This is probably when you reach for the water bottle, because there's a fair call, pages of notes on this one. Okay, the time suggestions. And remember, there's more in this pre-program bit than any of the others. So we're going to get through this slide and we're going to love every moment of it. The time suggestions are not in particular order, but to think about the value of locking in the program dates and the key events into a calendar months in advance.
Yeah.
Okay, so when are you going to run the program? If we're sitting here, it's the start of 2019, I would be really encouraging you to have all your dates for 2019, even 2020 booked as well, okay? And there's going to be key events around that, and that will become apparent in a minute or so as well. Alrighty, so we've got this 17-week phase. Schedule all your meetings, your program-related meetings, for the entire 17 weeks in advance. That's a scary thought, but I can't tell you how good it will feel when it's done. And I'm just going to go a little further on that one. If you can get those program meetings on the same day and the same time and the same place, that is a real memory builder for everybody who needs to get to those meetings. And there is nothing worse than all trying to scrabble with diaries to find a time that everybody can get to for a meeting. Okay, so these meetings, they may be an hour, they may be 20 minutes. You've got to kind of perhaps alternate and decide some of that stuff, and meet only for the length that you think you need. But even if you don't think you need that meeting, keep it in, because it can be a quick stand-up huddle, it can be a quick connect, because you're wanting to keep momentum with your team of facilitators right across the whole phase.
Yeah.
Schedule when your marketing campaign will start. People might have gone pale at that, and that's okay, because we're not always all super comfy with this marketing stuff. So if it makes it easier, maybe call it messaging. But think about just flyaway ideas, newsletters, social media, personal invitations. Think about the time that will take and when you want that to happen and how far out that you want that stuff to be dropping. Think also about the time it's going to take for admin as well, your front of house team. What chunks of time will they be needing, because it is extra load on those guys as well, by way of email, queries, phone calls, bookings. And so it could even be that you allocate a lead to a particular group, that one person does all of the SAS bookings for the May program, or however you do it. So see how I'm in there sliding around. Okay, that's a time and a team thing as well. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't going to be perfect. We knew that.
Pretty close.
So let's chunk into some of the team suggestions as well. Allocate facilitators for the SAS group. Okay, and so this is going to depend on your human resources and your human crew that you've got available. Think about think about the temperaments, the styles, think about the best possible match for each program that you're delivering across the year. Allocate one person as the project lead, okay? So that there is a little bit of a hierarchy in there. And this is a real leadership development opportunity as I see it. This is such an amazing program. It's so structured and it's so well supported with great resources that it's a brilliant step up for some of the facilitators that you may have to choose from as well. Bring in admin, reception, and I'm also going to say bookkeeper or finance person, finance manager, because they're part of the team. They are doing possibly more prep than anybody else as well. So they need to be in those meetings. They need to have some bandwidth for processing this and enjoying it, sharpening up their own processes as well. And we sometimes tend to forget the bookkeeper, finance person, but there's implications with banking and VAS and tax management, all sorts of things when these group programs are running over different parts of the financial year. Just saying, I've learnt that one the hard way. You might even, I just want to go back to this idea of a project lead. You might even want to work up a bit of a specification on that, a bit of a roles and responsibilities document as well. And if you're doing this for the first time, it's in draft mode, and it could well be refined and adjusted and agreed post-program, but then you've got it sitting there for ongoing use.
Yeah. Can really see how doing these things, documenting these things along the way, getting set patterns is going to make things a lot easier for people to keep repeating.
Yeah. Have we mentioned documenting things?
No.
All right, we won't mention that. I think they've got the gist of it. Communication channels. So I guess email is the default. Email communication can kill a project sometimes, and this could be an opportunity for you to explore some other channels, literally other channels. I'm just going to drop a couple of product names. You can have some fun Googling. I'll talk slowly because I know you'll all be Googling after I've said them. In my business, we use a product called Slack, S-L-A-C-K. And we have channels set up for different projects. So communication is specific to channels, and we get notifications. And it frees up our inbox, which is, mission critical for us. We also use a walkie-talkie app called Voxer, V-O-X-E-R. And I know many businesses are using WhatsApp as well. So don't just sort of sit there thinking, oh gosh, my inbox is going to be full. Have a look at some of those other nimble, agile communication alternatives as well. You might want to use or optimize Office 365 or whatever kind of workflow, work document management tools that you've got. Increasingly, they've got communication aspects or plugins coming into them as well. Once again, you'd probably want to document that. You'd probably want to review it. You would definitely want to review it if you're doing it for the first time. I guess the other part of team is also identifying who your beautiful clients are going to be for the particular group, and to get all those kiddos out and having a look at the right way of mixing and matching to optimize the experience for everyone in the SAS program as well. So that's the team elements. Some of them slide across time, and plenty of them are going to slide across task as well. So here are some task suggestions for that 9-week pre-program phase. Identify the goals of the program. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it now? What is the impact that you intend for you, your team, your clients, the parents, carers, educators? And if you're kind of the business organization manager, what's the impact going to be, perhaps financially, energetically, time-wise, resource-wise as well? Yeah, I get a little nervous when I hear, well, we're doing a group because we haven't done one for a while and we think it will be good.
Yeah. Another one that's out there are some people, it's around a research project as well.
Yeah, okay.
Another element, yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Yeah. Also under tasks is to really step into the challenge of optimizing your practice management software to support group bookings. We're listening to this from all over the world. Everyone's using a variety of practice management software packages. They don't all manage groups and group bookings and billings well, but this could be a really good prompt to go back and seek some support and sort of lodge some suggestions with your practice management provider as well. You might also want to look at potentially using a dedicated third party to sell the tickets to the group. It could be that your workflow is significantly smoothed out and streamlined if you use some online ticket selling products. And I'm just going to leave Eventbrite, try booking. You'll have other options in your neighborhood that could be good. So yes, there is a clip on the ticket, but oh my gosh, the service and support and the reports and the added functionality of using those platforms, well worth an explore, well worth it, absolutely amazing. You also get a great link from something like Eventbrite that you can drop into social media, newsletters, LinkedIn, blah, 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 blah. You might also want to think about adjusting your website so that you can take online bookings and payments through your website. That's not nearly as complex or costly as it used to be. And if it's something that you've been thinking about doing, and if you're looking at your 2019-2020 calendar, that build may well pay for itself with efficiencies and might kind of, fast track that web development piece as well. You're going to have to think about pricing for the program. We could probably do a whole hour on pricing the SAS program, and that's not a reflection of the SAS program. It's a reflection of all the many and varied and nuanced funding schemes that are sitting around the world that facilitators and providers are needing to operate in as well. So to really do a business case for the program and to really check in with the requirements and compliance requirements. I know you'd all do that, but it could actually be a really interesting exercise to sit with your bookkeeper, account, your finance advisor, and to have a look at the profitability of the group and how to make it profitable. I think that's really important, and it's going to be so much more relevant to some people providing and delivering the group than others. You'll make great decisions around all of that as well.
And I think we have another webinar planned that will be more detail on that, so look out for that one throughout the year.
We do. That will be a fun one. They're all going to be fun, I know. Don't forget to reach out to the Social Skills Training Institute for suggestions, for the support materials as well. And I guess this is kind of leading into reviewing your marketing materials. Certainly use what's available through the SSTI. I think there's a portal, there's downloadables, there's support documents for marketing. Don't go reinventing the wheel. And if you have got a couple of wheels that you can zhuzh up in-house, by all means check them out and update them, and maybe even get someone to have a look at the content. Marketing, as we know, is a fine art, and sometimes a more skilled eye across things can just sort of dial it up a little bit as well, so that the words are really supporting the wonderful outcomes that the kids will get from the program.
And if people don't have someone else to run their eyes over it, or they're not sure, maybe they've created something new and they're not sure if it's aligned with how you normally communicate about the program, do send it through to us and we'll give it a quick review.
There you go, some free content marketing support. That's
doing well, Kathy.
It's a skill, and we get a little nervous about that sometimes. So reach out. You might also want to think about all the scripts that you might need. You might be shuddering when I say scripts, but I guess in the context of the therapeutic work we do with these kiddos, we kind of know what scripts are. I'm talking about scripts for emails that you might send out, scripts for newsletters, marketing scripts, even scripts for when your facilitators, your admin receptionists are talking to people on the phone. They don't have to be super salesy, they don't have to be super sassy, but you are wanting some consistent messaging going through. And you may not get it right the first time, that's okay as well. But to have a red hot go at the scripts, it often means that everyone relaxes a little bit and that everyone's got a bit of a recipe for how to do the salesy bit. And that often gets the confidence and the authenticity up, because they know what 4 points they have to mention. They know what they have to say to sort of encourage people to go online and book, or that they'll pass the name on and reception will phone them and book them in. But some recipes around those scripts and documenting them means that you can pretty much rinse and repeat down the track as well. And this is sitting in this 9-week bit, so you kind of have hopefully got that bird's eye plan of when you're going to be sending emails, when you're going to be providing some enticement on social media, when you might be phoning people, when you might be sending out personal invitations. If you look at that 9-week program, you could almost have a day-by-day program framework of what's going to go when and when the rest days are as well. It sounds a bit fanatical, but in my experience, from when there's structure, there's also freedom.
Yeah.
and it makes it very reproducible later on. Yeah.
Less anxiety, particularly if it's not the clinical team who are communicating with people, or who haven't done the training and not familiar. You know, they might be worried about the lingo and saying something wrong. Yeah, sounds great, Kathy.
Yep, absolutely. You can also have a bit of fun with automating all of this. So probably at this point, people got their head on the table thinking, oh my God, it's so much work. And I did say it was going to be different work, but once you've done it once, you're in adjustment and tweak phase later on when you're rolling out programs. So there's some really cool programs that can help you with the email sequences. MailChimp springs to mind because it plugs into so many of the practice management software packages. And there's also another app, and proud to say it's a Melbourne, Australian homegrown app called Clinic Apps, whose purpose is to automate workflow as well. So if you're really into this email sequence, marketing sequence, scripted emails, so on and so forth, a whole lot of that stuff can be dialed and done. So Clinic Apps, I'm going to spell it because it's a little unusual. CLINIQ-APPS. Right, next task in the pre-phase. I told you there were a lot. I've got 2 or 3 more chunks to go. Filing documents. What I want you to be avoiding is the anything anywhere syndrome or everything anywhere syndrome. And if you're building a really cool 9-week lead up phase, think about how you're going to set up your cloud-based file architecture. So that everything is in one place, everything is super sorted and somewhat child-proof, so that anybody coming into the program at any point can really clearly see that structure and where documents and notes and scripts and images and so on and so forth is all going to be. You might also need to document some rules about using that superstructure as well, because allied health professionals are notoriously creative and may think that perhaps a document is better somewhere else. But who owns the architecture, who sets the rules of engagement and compliance will kind of frame up the behaviours that you're wanting to see in that document architecture as well. Make sure all your materials that you've developed yourself are branded, that they've got really nice, easy calls to action. It's really, really easy for people to book in and find out more and book in and that. You might also want to have some fun with online document signing. There's quite a few programs that now plug into the practice management software applications, and there's quite a few standalone third-party app programs as well. Jotform, DocuSign, some of those sorts of things may just take one more task off the desk of the front of house, and that's going to be good for everyone as well. Also keen to get you to think about the streamlining the intake process for these kiddos into the SAS program and potentially bringing it a little bit more in line with your general allied health education kind of intake processes as well. And it might be that you could almost be screening some of these kiddos for what the service design and the service provision that they need, but kind of doing some of that high level, ooh, gee, that'd be great for SAS, and they may be in the July group and getting some of that early stuff done. That'd be nice. It's kind of that 2 birds thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And keep in mind, this is the last task chunk really. Oh, there's a couple more. The whole customer experience, and to keep in mind what it's like from in this case, the parent or the purchaser's point of view. Keep thinking about what they will be wanting in emails. Keep thinking about how you could be helpful and friendly so that parents are really brought along and that their energy is really beautifully maintained before their kiddo even walks in the room of the SAS. They've got all that magic ahead of them, because the parents are such a big part of the engagement. And there's such a huge link to the educators as well. And we know that the parents are really going to have to kind of stepping in to support all the missions and the skills in between the groups, and making sure those tip sheets are toing and froing to all of the right people as well. So whether you want to include some FAQs or some hints about what it's going to be like, or some examples of what other parents found helped as they progress through the group as well. And that's that email sequence I'm talking about. You could call it a nurture sequence if you like, an onboarding sequence, but to really frame the energy with the parents even before they meet you and start the program, I think is really kind of lifting the bar for parent engagement. Don't forget to order the family kits on the note of talking about those parents as well. I'm going to draw a breath. Kathleen,
2 weeks beforehand. Sorry, what was that, Kathy?
Do some talking. Is there anything I've missed?
No, you've covered a whole range of great ideas through that phase of the program. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you don't start 3 or 4 weeks before.
No.
That's why you pull it out 6 weeks, 9 weeks, whatever you think it's going to take.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can, pace it out and enjoy it a bit differently. Alrighty, so then we have the bit that we signed up for. Now we are actually in the dance of program delivery, and we know it's going to be fun and exciting, and we know that it's going to be a bit unpredictable, and we get to implement the program in its complete and utter awesomeness as well. And this is where there is so much structure and support and awesomeness in the SAS program that this is when the facilitators are in full flight. And I'm just going to draw your attention back to that time versus energy management piece, and to be checking in on making sure they're bringing their A game to the group, that they've got the blocks of time to essentially prepare energetically before delivering the group, potentially have some wind down time as well, because this is all in. This is the 110%. And this is perhaps the energy required is sometimes underestimated, and these groups are sometimes locked in with clients either side or meetings overside, and they're just wedged in. And I'm not always sure that serves a program like SAS optimally. Yeah,
and I think layering that onto your beautiful busy versus productivity scale, you can really see how you're building a picture of, let's do all this preparation, our stealthy tips for productivity. Let's get all this happening beforehand, because then when we're running that period of the actual clinical intervention, our energy can be on what's most important in the room running those groups. We already know, we've got the plan of everything else that's happening. We know who's doing what. If we forget because we are frazzled at some point, it's all documented. I think it really comes together quite nicely when you think about all of those things you've been saying, and now we've got 9 weeks of action.
Yep. And we've got meetings scheduled, we've got reflective practice scheduled, potentially admin front of house, they're on roll. You've got some automation happening, and so the facilitators are in their sweet spot as well.
They can be thinking and collaborating around how we're going to work with this particular behaviour and this, and how do we teach to this child's needs, and so they're no longer up in the helicopter over the waves with the lady by the
surfing. They're surfing.
They're in there, yeah.
Alrighty, so there's some time, team and task suggestions that we have for this delivery phase. I suspect you've got a lot of this stuff sorted already, because many of you have delivered the program before, and you've got great learnings coming out of each delivery that you have. So to check in on that meeting schedule, and even if you don't think you need a meeting, still have it. A 10-15 minute stand-up meeting is going to keep momentum. It's going to identify any risk elements or any rogue elements. It's going to be a time of acknowledgement about what's happening and how well it's happening. It's also going to be a great support check-in with admin. There may be some issues around kids not being able to come to one session. You probably in the planning phase, we probably should have had maybe I missed it, a bit about kids cancelling and make-up sessions. That really needs a policy and procedure around it as well. And I guess every organisation will do that a little bit differently. But
exactly.
that stuff needs to probably be huddled, and for front desk to be totally smooth on the only options that are available in that scenario as well.
Before it happens.
Before it happens, yeah. Also good reminders about making sure all of those documents are ready, all your tools are ready, packs are ready, and if it means having everything crated up per week, per session, I'm happy for that. And that doesn't have to be the facilitator, that can be someone else in the organisation. It could be a role that really rounds out the admin role, and that might give them a really nice sense of completion, that it's literally packed and ready to ship as well.
You might be about to say this, Cathy, but the facilitator manual, the first page of every module, has that materials box with exactly what you need, where it comes from and what kit. So there's nothing stopping that from being
pre-packed,
being what am I thinking? Like the registrar, like the placement student who's hanging out, helping around. You know, it doesn't have to be the lead facilitators who look on that list and get all the things together and crate it.
Oh, I'm seeing checklist laminated. I'm seeing a trip to the hardware store.
And I'm seeing boxes with cool secret agent labeling that has all the things in.
Grab and go. And so grab and go is what you want. You don't want that anxiety of, is everything in there? Or to be hunting and gathering in the moments beforehand. So in terms of team-related activities in the program delivery phase, you're potentially wanting to build in some post-session reflection and actions. We're going to be talking about program evaluation, heads up, but those minutes and that hour afterwards are really, really important for personal development for the facilitator, reflection, peer-to-peer reflection, and asking those questions of not just how did it go, but what did we learn? What impact did we have on the kids? What could we do differently next time? Is there anything we forgot? What didn't we notice? All of those critical questions. I'm a big fan of critical questions. Go and Google critical thinking as well. And so that 5-minute huddle, that 10-minute huddle, there could be a personal reflection log that the facilitators jot in, and so that they've got that essentially that log book to be drawing from as well, because we're so used to managing so much information about people's behaviour in our heads that we learn to push it down pretty quickly. But to be able to capture it post-group, I think would be magic.
And some of that, Cathy, I can imagine for a lot of us could link into our professional development.
The self-study bit.
Yeah, or our requirements for our registration and things like that. So if it's together and you're signing off each other's peer supervision, things like that, so you can integrate it in.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. The task part of this, when you're actually delivering the program, I know I'm harping a lot about email sequences, but I really think this has a really powerful role during the delivery phase to be able to explain to parents in a one-to-many situation and back up what the parents are hearing verbally, to be able to give an overview of the session, to have reminders about the tip sheets and distributing them, about the tasks the kiddos are practicing, the missions they're on in between times. And I'm just wondering whether SMS or email, a lot of this stuff can be scripted and sent out via MailChimp, really keeps that energy and participation up, but it lifts the expectation that parents have to remember everything that they're being told. A
perfect example at the moment, Cathy, would be with the skill tracker. So you could very easily automate a reminder system to all your parents, or to some parents. Maybe you let them know about an option and they opt in to have some sort of reminder system come to them about their skill tracker.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we, quickly think about the Zoom, the platform that we're using to record this, some snippets of conversation and videos and facilitators talking to screen and introducing themselves in a quick little 2 or 3 minute summary. That stuff is also a real point of difference. It's really good for the organisation to go a little bit above and beyond, but ultimately to make it really, really easy as possible for parents and the kids to get the success that they deserve and require out of the program as well. And it can all be repeated.
Yeah, now, I know this is jumping back to pre-program phase, but that last idea that you just shared, I could imagine people doing that as part of their marketing, and they're actually, hey, this is the actual person who'll be working with the child, or one that's child friendly that could be shown to the child of, hey, this is Secret Agent Smith.
Yep. Yeah. And look, this could also be a pre-phase 1, but it really needs to be revisited during the program. This is a bit of what if scenario busting. What if the kid is sick? What if the facilitator can't come in?
Big one.
Hopefully you'll have a little bit of time, but you're going to need an understudy to be able to deliver the program as well. What are you going to be doing regarding makeup sessions or so on and so forth? So yeah, that sits in pre-planning, but really needs to be revisited and pro-managed in advance as much as possible as well. Alrighty, anything else we need to add in that delivery phase?
I think that was a good coverage of lots of different things, yeah.
Alrighty, so the program is done. And it's kind of cool, hey? We're always really delighted when these big pieces of work are delivered and everyone's learnt something. And this can be kind of how it feels, and this is how it should feel. I've added an extra 2 weeks after the 6-week program. We know there's the 6-month block, but I just have this bit of a thing that programs aren't always evaluated as thoroughly as they could be. And so this post-program suggestion, remember you've got these meetings planned across that 17 weeks. And this is where you dig in and you potentially ask yourself some really, really tough questions. And so if we think of our framework, time, team, and task, stick to this meeting schedule. Get these last 2 or 3 meetings happening.
Yeah.
There may well be competing priorities, but stick to them as best you possibly can. In regards to team, if you possibly can, bring the whole team in. Bring the program manager in, bring the facilitators in, bring the front of house team, reception admin team. If there's a bookkeeper finance person, maybe Skype them in as well for part of it. Because I'd love to encourage you to do a real 360 review of the whole program and do a review from the client, the kiddo's perspective. What was their experience like? What was the experience of the parent? What was the experience of the educator? What was the experience of the facilitator, program manager, admin, bookkeeper? Because I don't know about you, but when I've run groups, we've learned so much more on reflection than we did during the actual program when we're sort of using our technical skills. And yeah, ask yourself the question, did we make a difference?
Yeah.
Okay, did we make a difference to ourselves? Did we make a difference to the kids, to the bank balance, to the policies and procedures that we've built out around this, to our marketing style, so on and so forth?
Yeah.
Remind me, is there a review part of the SAS program? Is there something built into the program anyways?
For clients or for facilitators?
For facilitators.
So it's all about how to run the actual program with the kids and the parents. However, what the facilitators do have built in is a satisfaction questionnaire from the parents and the teachers through that booster, through the session.
Yeah,
so
okay.
The last questionnaire booklets have a satisfaction questionnaire. So, and the kiddies, sorry, it's not just the parents and the teachers, it's all 3 of them.
Oh, cool. That's
nice.
Okay. Yeah.
So it has the standard questions that are part of the SAS questionnaire booklets, but it would be very easy to tap something on the back of it, or to have every session a rating with different smiley faces.
Yep.
Get at the airport when you go through customs, whatever. Yeah, be very easy to add more if you wanted more feedback to add to your 360.
Yeah. And I'm just going to put in this idea of documenting it. It doesn't have to be a thesis, a one-pager with your self-eval, a one-pager of your impact statements from all of those different perspectives, a one-page, all of this stuff is on one page, what we'll do differently next time. Means that you're focused when you start the 9-week pre-phase or 6-week pre-phase next time. You're starting from a higher base, a higher level, every single time you're putting in this terrific sort of program as well.
Yeah, that's been on my mind as we've gone through your process, Cathy. I can see how the service providers will just get better and better and better. They'll become more efficient. The program will become more efficient for them, and they'll get even greater reputations in the community for delivering excellent SAS through the continuous improvement.
Yep. Nice. Don't be shy. The email sequence, I would love to see it continue, because the kiddos and the parents are a little off the leash in this booster phase as well. And I think it would be really important that they knew that you were still thinking about them in a really kind of efficient sort of professional way. So think about how emails could be motivating and engaging, and how you could kind of have those check-ins phased out across the 6 months. Could you use SMS for some of it? Could you use email? Could you have some scheduled calls going out? Could you send some letters to the kids? How can you kind of keep the right appropriate level of engagement and heat and curiosity and progress happening out through that time when those guys are kind of out of sight but still on program as such? And this is where your practice management software might be able to help you with some alerts. You can have some scripts and some emails and some stuff in place, all set to go, so that it's not taxing, but it's there with the intention of ongoing support and motivation and really good energy stuff.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so fair to say we have romped through a whole host of productivity ideas and suggestions that you guys can be cherry picking in that pre-program phase, in the delivery phase, and in the post phase. And what I want to do is just stop talking for 1 minute and give you some thinking time. I've been in your eardrums forever. I want you to spend the next, I don't know, it always feels like a minute, but it's only ever 20 seconds, going back over your notes and putting some circles around the big stuff that resonated for you. So to pick your top 3 productivity suggestions. I'll give you some peace to do that bit. Rightio, you've got your top 3. What do you think are going to make the biggest difference for you when you're stepping towards the next implementation of the SAS program? So how are you going to make those top 3 takeaways happen?
Good question, Cathy.
And fair to say, Kathleen and I can't whiz around to your office and help you with this.
We'll check on you.
That would get the frequent flyers up. And so I guess this is the tough question, hey, what steps do you need to take to get this productivity lift in your organisation? Is it going to be a meeting? Is it going to be an agenda item? Is it going to be a planned strategic approach? Is it going to be bringing in a project lead to even work this through and document the whole thing with the next delivery of SAS? You will know what works. I completely trust you to know what's going to dial it up in your organisation. Which brings us 100 hours later to the end.
Well done. So thank you very much, Cathy, for that session today on the productivity tips behind the scenes, or stealth productivity tips It's got to be secret agent. It's been, I think, a lot of different ideas, lots of different practical things that people can take, as you've said, or can adapt for their own organisation. And I've got in my head now imagining all these SAS teams coming together and having planning days and implementing some of that. I think it's really useful. And Cathy will be back for future webinars. We've got some other topics lined up. One was, I think one or two were mentioned today, one around a bit more about the budgeting and the service modelling in terms of resourcing the program. What are some of the others, Cathy?
Marketing. Marketing
communications, which for different people from different types of organisations, that's not always what we think it is in terms of marketing. It can just be around how to communicate, make sure people feel ready and safe and all of those things, perhaps if you're, for example, from a school. So lots of great topics coming up. We'll also have some webinars from other people on different topics as well. So feel free to tune in whenever there's one that suits you and your service. So thank you everyone for listening, and thank you, Cathy, for taking us through.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Me too. Bye.
See ya.